Hi everyone and welcome to Shakespeare with Sarah. Today I am working with Eleni and she is working on Catherine's speech from Henry VIII. Sir, I desire you do me right and justice. So we're going to have a look at that today and she's kindly allowed me to share this with you guys. So hopefully it will be useful to lots of people out there. So Eleni, would you be happy to jump into just our reading of the monologue? And, you know, even if we don't get through the whole thing, that's fine. Or if you'd like to hold your script, that's fine as well. Just whatever feels comfortable to you. It doesn't need to be fully enacted. Or just like a sort of rough read through would be fine.
Yeah, totally. So I can start. Sir, I desire you to do me right and justice, and to bestow your pity on me, for I am a most poor woman and a stranger, having here no judge indifferent, nor no more assurance of equal friendship and proceeding. Alas, sir, in what have I offended you? What cause hath my behavior given to your displeasure, that thus you should proceed to put me off and take your good grace from me? Heaven witness, I have been to you a true and humble wife, at all times to your will conformable, even in fear to kindle your dislike, yea, subject to your countenance, glad or sorry, as I saw it inclined. When was the hour I ever contradicted your desire or made it not mine too? Or which of your friends have I not strove to love, although I knew he were my enemy? What friend of mine that had to him derived your anger did I continue in my liking? Nay, give notice he was from thence discharged. Sir, call to mind that I have been your wife in this obedience upward for 20 years, and I have been blessed with many children by you. If in the course and process of this time you can report and prove it too, against mine honor oath, my bond to wedlock, or my love and duty against your sacred person, in God's name turn me away, and let the foulest contempt shut door upon me, and so give me up the sharpest kind of justice.
Beautiful. That's great. Actually, I feel like you have a really good understanding of what's happening for her. I can really hear that, and I can hear that you understand what you're saying, which is really good. Sounds like it should go without saying, but actually you'd be surprised how often people don't know what they're saying. So I think that's a really good place to start from. So I think what the biggest thing that I think that you need to work on here is actually variety, because it's all at the moment within the same kind of vocal patterns and the same kind of emotional level. Obviously, this was just a reading, so you're not necessarily going into the same level of emotional intensity, but I think it's good for us to maybe have a look at that and what where do you feel, and I know that you've done a lot of work in terms of the prep, the kind of character work and the analysis that you would do as a contemporary actor you've done for this. So I'd love to get your thoughts on what do you think is where is she the most emotionally intense? Where is she the most upset, I guess? What do you think is the peak of the monologue?
So if I have to choose, because I think the whole monologue is quite intense. And again, this is her perhaps last opportunity to make Henry change his mind. So the stakes are really high. But if I have to choose, I think the part where she says, "Sir, I call to mind that I have been your wife in this obedience upward for 20 years. So that has a weight, because it's not that they've been together for a few years. They're almost for half of their life. And she has given him many children, although the only alive child is one. But she has carried in her all the miscarriages or all the others. So her body has been affected by that. And she has given also her obedience. So I think that's if I have to choose, that's the peak of the monologue.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's really beautiful understanding everything that's going on for her. So in terms of what do you think she wants to get out of this? Did you pick an objective or anything, something that she wants him to say or do?
Yeah, I think her main objective is to change his mind. So she can feel that the end is near. He's going to ask for the divorce. And even if the church does not allow it, he will find a way, because Henry in the past has showed that he can bend the rules, and he has already, direct to their death sentence a lot of innocent people. So she knows that he's capable of that. So I guess she's trying to, bring his emotional background in order to, bring all the memories of their marriage in his mind, remind him also of their child. And also, of course, it's very clever of her that she wants to bring in the conversation the religion, because it plays a really important role. So I think her main objective is just to prevent him from taking the divorce.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's very, very clear. So I think my feeling about this is that you need to have different tactics or actioning, that kind of thing. Have you done any of that kind of work, either with this or with other work before? Have you divided it up into beats at all, this monologue? Have you looked at sections?
In the past with different plays, yes, the units and the bits,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not with a particular one.
Okay, cool.
Done.
I think that's what you need here, is an understanding of the units, and what kind of actions or strategy. Everybody uses different terminology, but essentially the same thing. Like what tools are you using in each beat? Because I think she does. I think what's always useful to keep in mind with a monologue is that he hasn't spoken yet. And so she feels the need to keep going. I think it's always very powerful to think about, why hasn't he spoken and how does that affect her? Because this is a very long monologue. And so this whole time, there's something going on for her, whether it means that as it goes on, she becomes more desperate, or whether she, I don't necessarily think that's true, but it could be, or whether she becomes more resolute as it goes on, or whether she's actually just throwing every single tactic that she's got available to her at him. And you could actually use in your mind, if you're imagining him reacting different ways at different times, that could potentially sort of spur you to react different ways. So let's sort of break it into some units. So for you, what do you think is the first unit?
Before that, I just wanted to make a side note. I really liked what you said about his reactions, because one of the saying for theater, for acting, is that the importance lies with the other person. So I really liked what you said, and I haven't thought it that way. So thank you for that. Okay, so for the units, I think in the beginning, she's trying to give the background. So she wants, first of all, the first sentence is that she wants justice, because she knows that justice is on her side. So perhaps, I'm not sure, but the first bit, Sarah desire you to do me right and justice, perhaps this is the summary of the whole monologue, the statement. And then she's breaking down the different, to bestow your pity on me. Again, he is the king of England. So of course she's humble, and she wants to ask for his pity. I'm not sure if this is a unit, because then she's giving her background about the fact that she's a stranger, etc. What do you think?
I think let's not go too granular, because I think you do have a really good understanding of it. So I think we can maybe dig into some granular things as we go on. But if we just if we had to bunch it into, let's see, you know, if it were maybe 6 sections, I'm just kind of spitballing here because I haven't actually decided myself where the sections would be. But if it were to be sort of 6 chunks, what do you think the sort of first chunk, where does it end?
Okay, so perhaps the first one is from the top until equal friendship and proceeding.
That's what I would think, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because then she's more, alas, she's trying to find answers to their questions. So then the second chunk could be the alas, until good grace from me.
Yeah.
And then heaven witness. This is like how submissive and obedient she has been. So it could be until discharged, the fact that she has been compliant all the time.
You could either decide to have 2 in that sort of section there, or that could be 1 section. But yeah, I think you're right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You mean perhaps to have the first bit until made it not mine too, and then it's about their social relations and diplomacy and friendship.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Agree. And then that's the pick that we said. I think the next sentence is just one standalone unit, which is the pick also. They've been married for 20 years and they had children. And then it's just one period, like if in the courses and process of time until the end, this is like her assumption. And then, okay, you should do me justice. So perhaps it's also a circle. So if in the course until the end, I think it's the last unit.
So you're only doing up until the sharp's kind of justice. You're not going on to please you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Until then, because for the self-tape is, only 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's massive. It's absolutely massive. Yeah, and I think it is. I think that's a good choice because that last section is quite. She's very practical. She's being very practical there, but it's a little bit more about the detail and the the lawyering side of her. Yeah, cool. I think that's great. I think you can really see that. So if we look at those. Now, I don't know if you like working with actions or tactics or whatever, but I think it would be good to get a sense whether you use, a verb or just label it in some other way, get a sense of how each section is different and what kind of strategy she's using at each point. So, and because what we can actually do is look at I think what often people don't do is actually look at how do the sections connect? Why do they switch from one to the other? Is there a particular thought there? And if there's not a thought there, is it a reaction from the person that you're speaking to? And that can give you a really good kick into the next beat. But if you had to sort of label the first section, even if you labeled it with a noun or a verb, like if you like to do verbs, to explain or whatever, or otherwise just give the label of clarity or whatever works for you, whatever speaks to you. If you can give it a name, what would you call the first section?
Okay, it should be one word or a sentence.
Yeah, I reckon give it one. If you can give it one word, and it could be something. It could be an emotion if you want, or something that sums it up. Anything that connects to you.
I would say the word stranger.
I like that. Okay, cool. Stranger. Okay. And then the second section?
I would say even grace, as in grace period. So she's asking a favor.
From alas, sir, that one?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I think that's an interesting one, because I really think what's interesting about that section there is that it's very driven by questions. She genuinely wants to know what's happened.
True.
And I think that's
why,
why, or anything like that. There's definitely, why is good. Like, it's good.
Yeah, because she's thinking, you know, if he's bored with her, if he thinks that she's old, if he has found someone else, which is the case.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's
Okay.
great subtext underneath that as well. So would you give it a different word then?
I think why is a nice one, because it covers everything.
Cool. Yeah, great.
All the different assumptions that she has in her mind. Why?
Okay.
Okay.
That's great. Okay, cool. And so then next one from Heaven Witness.
I think it's more like obedience.
Yep.
Obedience, compliance, something like that.
Yeah, compliance.
It seems that she's been always agreeable with everything he thought, he desired. So obedience, I would say.
And then if you looked at a section from or which of your friends.
I know we are allowed to say one word, but I would say friends and enemies.
Yeah, that's good.
Because I'm not sure from the play, but I think perhaps she has isolated herself from old friends because he didn't like them, for instance. And also this cardinal, I think she doesn't like him, but for him he's like his best friend. So friends and enemies.
Yeah, that's great. That's really powerful. Okay, cool. And then did you say circle to mind? Was that the next one?
I think it's more like their marriage.
Marriage.
A married life, marriage. It could be also, it's a choice. One could say the most important here is children, because I think she suspects that perhaps he wants a younger wife to make him like how to say, sorry, a boy, like
yeah,
okay.
give him a
so yeah, so he wants to have the next to the throne, and what she has managed to do is only a daughter. So I think he needs a son. So I would say children, even children here. The last bit, this is the sentence, not the sentence, but the verdict, more like it's about the verdict. If she was a lawyer, like you said, those are her closing arguments, like the opening statement and the closing remarks. And I like to think of it as it's like because she is in the courtroom, and I think she's self-represented. Perhaps she doesn't trust anyone. So it's a good one to think also as a lawyer.
And I think I mean, she probably doesn't trust anyone, but I also think it adds to the sense of isolation that she would be feeling. I think there's a lot going on underneath all of this stuff. And I think you've made some really strong choices about what she's feeling at each point. So let's have a look at, actually, this may not be necessary, but just if you humor me, if we go through these sections, I'd love you to give them a color. So for the first section, stranger, what color would you give that?
I would say gray, because it's not black, it's not white. She's somewhere in the middle, always, you know, in the margin. So it's a gray area.
Great. And what about why?
Ooh, something more intense, something more like, not red, because I think red is later, but I would say something yellow, because it may be also jealousy behind the line, so yellow.
Okay, and then obedience or compliance?
Something quiet, even blue, light blue.
Okay, cool. Light blue, yeah, like that. Okay, and then friends and enemies?
Orange.
Yeah, cool. And children?
This is red.
Yeah. That's great. And then the verdict, the closing?
My initial thought was black, because she knows that, you know, this is already a lost game. But I'm not sure. Perhaps she has some hope. I'm not, let's say black and see.
I think that's interesting. I think that's a really important thing to decide for yourself. And it's the kind of thing that you would decide, I think, with a director. You know, if you were in a production, the director would help you understand whether she does think there's any hope or anything. But I think in the case of doing it for an audition, you have to just decide whether she thinks there's any hope or not. And I think that's a really important decision to make for yourself. And I think either is actually really valid.
Even because the other choice, it would be white. Because it's like she's blank. She doesn't know what's going to happen. It's like her mind is empty, but also white is about, you know, the 0 point.
I think that's very interesting. I reckon, so what I'd like to do now is for you to give me another reading through, and I want you to try and really move from color to color. So when you get to a section, if you need to stop in between sections to, you know, think and change, that's good and fine. But if you don't, if you want to just keep it flowing, that's good too. And I want you to try and really lean into that color, to lean into the difference between each section. I want you to exaggerate the difference between each section.
Okay.
And let's try having that last section that she is very white. Stick with that white idea and see how it feels. That might give you an indication of whether it feels right or not.
Okay, but you still want me to, you know, still be the character?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you read through this time, give it a little bit of emotional connection and in thinking character, and see if you can switch. I don't know if this helps, but I suspect she's the sort of character that would switch tactics quite consciously, because I think she's very, very clever. So I feel like if she's not seeing the, you know, reaction that she wants to see, she's going to go into the next point, and she's going to be very strategically going, you know what, I'm going to start talking about my friends now because I know this is going to get you, you know, that kind of thing. Or, you know, I'm going to talk about your friends, for example. I think she's very, very conscious about what she's using, those strategies, moving from one to another. So I don't know if that helps you right now, but in terms of what I want to really try and go for is variety. I want to see change. So have a read through and exaggerate, go over the top with whatever you think is happening in that beat.
Okay.
Sure.
I'll try. Thank you. Sir, I desire you to do me right and justice, and to bestow your pity on me. For I am a most poor woman and a stranger, born out of your dominions, having here no judge indifferent, no more assurance of equal friendship and proceeding. Alas, in what have I offended you? What cause hath my behavior given to your displeasure, that thus you should proceed to put me off and take your good grace from me? Heaven witness, I have been to you a humble and true wife, conformable even in fear to kindle your dislike. Yeah, subject to your countenance, glad or sorry, as I saw it inclined. When was the hour I ever contradicted your desire, or made it not mine too? Or which of your friends have I not strove to love, although I knew he were my enemy? What friend of mine that had to him derived your anger did I continue in my liking? Nay, give notice he was from thence discharged. Sir, call to mind that I have been your wife in disobedience upward for 20 years, and I have been blessed with many children by you. If in the course and process of this time you can report and prove it too, against mine honor ought, my bond to wedlock, or my love and duty against your sacred person, in God's name, turn me away, and let the foulest contempt shut door upon me, and so give me up the sharpest kind of knife of what justice. Sorry.
How did that feel?
So definitely I need more practice to feel, more organic, like the changes, but it helped me. Yeah.
I mean, I've just given it to you, so.
Yeah, but it's really helpful, like a reminder. So the units just reminded me to switch, but there is a different quality, and the colors. I was just thinking about the colors. I may even change them afterwards. Perhaps they may not be working or something, but yeah, it was quite helpful.
I think what is useful about this is that you'll notice what's not working. And I think this is a useful process to go through, because like you say, you might change them later. And that's great, because if you were doing a light blue and you think, gosh, this does not feel light blue to me, you learn something about the character, and then you can say, okay, I've got it wrong. This doesn't feel right. You can change it around. I think, something that's important to notice about this text is that her changes, her beat changes happen almost at the ends of lines every time. Like, they're not quite at the end of the line. She always starts the next beat before the end of the line. Do you know what I'm talking about? So when she says, "Alas, sir," which is the start of the next beat, that's at the end of a line. And the same with "Heaven witness," and the same with "Or which of your friends." What that suggests in terms of Shakespeare technique, that can sometimes suggest that they're actually not letting a person speak because they're continuing their flow. So fairly common Shakespeare technique is not to breathe in the middle of lines if you can. So what that suggests to me is that she keeps going every time. She jumps on to the next point very, very quickly. And that might be because she's interrupting someone. Maybe he is trying to speak and she keeps going, actually, no, I'm not letting you speak. I've got more to say. Or it could just be that she is thinking very fast and she's connecting to the next beat, the big thought change quite fast. So that's something that, as you get more familiar with those changes of variety, changes of tactic, you'll need to learn to springboard from one to the next. So what I think is worth looking at now is looking at those connections. Does everything I said, does that make sense?
It does, definitely. It's more like saying, okay, wait.
Yeah.
I want to slow down and don't interrupt me because so definitely.
And I think what's interesting with this is that there may be an underlying thing for her that she fears if she stops talking, that will be the end. She won't get to say anything else ever again and it will be over. So it actually reminds me, I don't know if you know The Winter's Tale at all, but Hermione in The Winter's Tale is kind of similar.
I've watched it like a million years ago, but Hermione.
She has a monologue when she's on trial, and this sort of feels similar in the way that she keeps talking. She won't let it drop. And I think that often happens with Shakespeare's women when they know they're up against a tyrannical man. They don't let them in. They don't let them speak. So what I'd like to do now is to have a look at what you think either his reaction or her thought change or thought process is in between the beats to help you connect from one to the other. So what's the connection? What's happening in that moment that makes her go, actually, no, I need to say this next bit?
I think that, for instance, in the second beat, alas, he can sing to her, he can appear a bit indifferent. Like he doesn't pay attention to her. He's looking at the other way, or he's not interested.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. And I think you might even want to go further with it, that if he looks particularly disgusted with her or annoyed with her, or walks away from her, I think I'd encourage you to pick very strong motivators to move from one to the other. But you can definitely play with indifference, but I think you might find that something bigger
You're right.
can help you.
You're right about disgusted, because she's saying, in what have I offended you? So I think we need something stronger than indifference. She thinks that he seems offended in some way, so he may be, yeah, as you said, disgusted, or even not disagreeing, but in a dismissive way.
It's an interesting word to choose, because she could mean it in a very technical sort of courtly way, in the sense of a subject might offend the king and earn his displeasure by saying something small at court, or failing to bring a gift or something like that. It could be, she could mean it in a very courtly way, but she could also mean that the self-doubt is very, very strong there.
Yeah, I like the resistance. So I like the fact that she may feel this self-doubt, but she's trying to remain a queen and fight, the external status. She may continue to have a high status, but yeah, internally she's going down. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's really good, because I think the more that you layer on those contradictory things, the more powerful it becomes for you as an actor and for people to watch. So yeah, I think that's really good. And then when she says heaven witness, I think there again, I always encourage people to really notice the choice of words, because she was known to be very religious. And I can imagine that there would be religious relics or, icons in the room. I wonder if that's a moment where what spurs her on to say heaven witnesses, that it's like an oath, that maybe she sees something, she sees a crucifix, or maybe the cardinal, or whatever it is.
Exactly, cardinal.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think the cardinal is so interesting, because he is so contradictory, I guess, that, and because she's genuinely religious and pious, I think that could be a really good motivator as well. So, and this gives you things to look at and things to react to. So if you're reacting to your husband at the first change, and then you're reacting to the cardinal, and especially if you imagine that the cardinal is sort of coming in, maybe the cardinal is trying to interrupt you when you get to heaven witness. I can imagine that you might want to move closer to Henry, because this is very personal, and you are trying to share with him something personal and not make it about the rest of the room. Because I think it's always useful to remember there would have been a lot of people in the room. So if you were moving away from the cardinal towards Henry, and it's about you and me and God. And right now I'm going to bring you back to this, that I'm religious, that I'm swearing by something that I believe in. I want you to connect with me eye to eye, and I'm telling you this. And it becomes very genuine, I suppose.
Very helpful, all those, subcontext instructions.
There's a lot in there that you can play, and you don't have to take all of these ideas. These are just sort of ideas to give you things to springboard with. And the same, I guess, when you say, or which of your friends, that makes me think she's bringing the conversation back out to the people that are there, because she's moved from saying something very personal to something bigger.
It's like they're not juries at the time, but it's like she's addressing the jury in the room in a way.
Yes, and that gives you something very clear to play, I think, because, yeah, like I said before, I think she is very smart. And I think if she at that point is not just appealing to him, but she knows she needs to appeal to other people. She knows that even if Henry is not, even if she can't win Henry over, if she can win somebody else over, that could help her. That could help her in the long run. So she's helping herself now by opening it out to the court and saying, remember, everybody, I'm actually your friend. And I think what's interesting there as well, as an actor is to be looking at their reactions, because she knows that they would have started to
Gossip?
yes, gossip, yes. And even more, I think they would have started to kind of side themselves with Anne Boleyn. And she would know that. She would know that there's something going on and there's a woman, and that these people that she sided with are actually, you know, probably in the last, you know, several weeks have started to position themselves with someone more powerful than her, which is probably Anne Boleyn. So she, when she's speaking to them, it's a reminder about, actually, don't you remember that I have been very loyal to you? A bit of a guilt trip. If you wanted to go further, you could layer on a particular memory that she has of connecting with a particular person. You know, if it's, oh, I can't even think of who would be in the room, but you know, with a particular person at court that she helped their wife, you know, find their way at court, or that she helped them with a financial situation because she convinced Henry to pardon their taxes, or, you know, something. You come up with a particular instance that she can connect with a particular person and try and win them over.
Okay, yeah, something specific. I will think about that.
Yeah. So, and you know, you can create that stuff because they're not going to be able to, you know, your panel's not going to be able to read that. Sir, call to mind that I have been your wife in this obedience upward of 20 years. I think that's an interesting one, that section, because I sort of see that as like because she says in this obedience, she's actually summing it all up. She's putting it all together. I've given enough examples, and now I'm going to say, remember, I've been doing all of this for 20 years. And I've had children by you as well.
I was also thinking, because all the previous tactics and units, etc., she's referring to religion, to other people. She's asking about questions. She has self-doubt, etc., etc. I think maybe this is the most intimate unit between. So I think she's not talking to him as a queen, and he's not longer the king. Is more about, we are a couple, we've been married, we had children. So I think perhaps it's not even the peak of the monologue. Perhaps this is the most sentimental, you know, emotional unit, and perhaps she's still in love with him. And yeah, she's a woman who feels that she's gonna lose her lover, or, you know, so perhaps this is like very interior. And
it could be, yeah. I think that's something that you might want to play with in your rehearsal, is different ways of doing it, because I think you're right. It could be extremely personal. It could be, you could bring it down a lot and make it very intense and kind of intimate, or you could make it a plea from far away, you know, because she's feeling far away from him. Or she could be very angry. I think there's so many different ways to do it. And I think the good part about that part, I do think it's still the peak, but there's different ways to peak. If you put all the other building blocks in place, you will naturally peak the way that it should peak for you in that moment. Like, it will organically fall into place at that moment. So actually, don't worry about how you deliver that bit, as long as you understand the intention of it. Worry about getting everything else in place, and it will flow and it'll build, and you'll just end up peaking there naturally if you trust it.
It could be also the only unit that she's not thinking about the tactic and the strategy. She's just, you know, she's very honest.
I think so.
So as you said, there are so many options, but I haven't thought about this one before. So thank you very much, because yeah, it made me look at the text in a completely different way.
That's awesome. Let's are you ready to have another go at reading it through?
Yeah, sure. So the last bit doesn't have a connection because it's the last bit, right?
I think it's another bit that will fall into place naturally, because I suspect that once you kind of peaked, you as an actor, but also her as a character, will feel like, well, I've said everything now, and it will just naturally, I think that is the connection. I think that is the thought connection. Actually, the thought process is, well, I've said everything now. I've said everything I can say. And now I'm just going to say, look, I've said everything I can say.
Yeah. It's like, if this is not enough, and this is not enough, and this is not enough, then, you know.
Yeah, there's nothing more I can do.
You can erase me from the map.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
Because that's what he did. He just sent her somewhere, you know, in isolation, and she died alone and everything. So
yeah.
Okay.
Terrible times. It's
But at
terrible.
least she didn't go to the tower, and she wasn't assassinated, unlike a lot of his wives. So
exactly.
she's quite in that way.
I think he loved her. I think he genuinely loved her. I think he just, I don't know. I think he kind of got bored. I think he kind of knew himself and was like, and what's great about this is that this monologue, if you think about it in that way, is that she does convince him. This monologue does convince him. It just convinces him not to kill her. It doesn't convince him to, stay married, but she does win in a way. Like this is so powerful that it is actually effective. So I think that's good to keep in mind, because there are monologues sometimes where it doesn't work at all and actually nothing changes, but something has shifted in him by the end of it. So whether you see that or not, when you're delivering that last section, maybe that's the kind of goal for that last section, is to be sizing him up and watching his reaction and going, well, what's happening now? It's a bit open.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, that's a lot of information for you. Let's have a try reading it through all together. I want you to try not to stop between beats this time. I want you to just try and keep on powering through and see what happens. Don't worry if you feel like you're not quite hitting the right intention or whatever for each beat. Just try and go for flow, I think, this time, and see what happens now that you've kind of got all that homework in place.
Okay. Sir, I desire you to do me right and justice, and to bestow your pity on me, for I am a most poor woman and a stranger born out of your dominions, having here no judge indifferent, no more assurance of equal friendship and proceeding. Alas, sir, in what way have I offended you? What cause have my behavior given to your displeasure, that thus you should proceed to put me off and take your good grace from me? Heaven witness, I have been to you a true and humble wife, at all times to your will conformable, even in fear to kindle your dislike, yet subject to your countenance, glad or sorry as I saw it inclined. When was the hour I ever contradicted your desire, or made it not mine too? Or which of your friends have I not strove to love, although I knew he were my enemy? What friend of mine that had to him derived your anger did I continue in my liking? Nay, gave notice he was from thence discharged. Say, call to mind that I have been your wife, in this obedience upward for 20 years, and have been blessed with many children by you. Even the course and process of this time you can report, and prove it too, against mine honor ought, my bond to wedlock, or my love and duty against your sacred person. In God's name turn me away, and let the foulest contempt shut door upon me, and so give me up to the sharpest kind of justice. Sorry, I was just thinking about the interruption between units that I did in the beginning, but then I tried to forget it. And
that was really great though. How did it feel?
Okay, so I felt quite connected in the unit about the friends. I was thinking that, I lost one, my best friends, and now I have no one to turn to, because he made me isolated. So that really synced with me, the friendship bit, because personally I have some really good friends, like family. So I was like, that was heavy. And then the bit about the 20 years marriage was also something like, I'm losing you and I want you and I'm in love. Or so those two units really, I felt really connected.
You sounded really connected. It was really, there was a lot going on there. That was really, really great. I actually wonder whether the last section we might have maybe gone a bit easy on it. I think it might be something that you might need to play with, because I actually think listening to the language again, I feel like she doesn't give up. That this is sort of my feeling, is that she's saying, I think it's almost like a dare. Like she's saying,
Yeah.
you know this, you know I've been absolutely faithful. You know I've done so much for you. If it is possible for you to find something against me while you do this stupid trial, then, then turn me away, because we both know actually it's not possible. I actually think that it might be a stronger one. But I think, I think that's something for you to play with.
Yeah, perhaps this is the first time in her life that she dares him, because she's obedient and she's not gonna challenge him, or perhaps it's the first time she's gonna challenge his opinion.
I think so. And I think that would be very interesting for you to play, as a character, that there's probably a layer of, I think it's good to ask whether she has any fear about that, or whether she's just, by that point in the monologue, not afraid at all, because she's like, well, I've said everything I can possibly say, and I've been truthful, and I know that I'm innocent. And so I'm not afraid anymore. Perhaps that this is her kind of leap of faith, maybe. I think something that probably needs a bit more grit is the line about children, because I think it's a correction. I think what she is aware of is that he basically thinks she hasn't given him any children. So when she's saying, we have been together 20 years, she's saying, and I have had many children. I've actually had many children. You need to recognize this. And I think that needs to have a bit more weight to it. So those couple of lines there within that sort of beat are quite, I think they're really powerful, and it might be a section where you need to really slow down and hammer home, because all of those little subsections are important. So she's saying, remember, so call to mind, remember, I have been your wife in this obedience, meaning with all of the things that I've just said, for more than 20 years, and have been blessed with many children by you. Like, not, I'm not sleeping around, and I have had children, just hasn't worked out the way that you wanted it to. And then there will need to be a shift. And that's a tricky one. I actually think that's a really tricky shift from really giving it to him like that, to shift into, if in the course and process of this time. So I think you'll need to play with some different ways that you shift from once you've delivered the words with many children by you, you're going to need to change quite quickly if in the course of and process of this time. Well, I think that, I can hear a lot of change in what you did just then from when we started. Do you want to read it through one more time before we finish?
Let's do that.
Okay. Yay!
So, I desire you to do me right and justice, and to bestow your pity on me, for I am a most poor woman and a stranger, born out of your dominions, having here no judge indifferent, nor no more assurance of equal friendship and proceeding. Alas, sir, in what way have I offended you? What cause hath my behavior given to your displeasure, that thus you should proceed to put me off and take your grace from me? Heaven witness, I have been to you a true and humble wife, at all times to your will conformable, even in fear, to kindle your dislike. Yea, subject to your countenance, glad or sorry, as I saw it inclined. When was the hour I even contradicted your desire, or made it not mine too? Or which of your friends I have not strove to love, although I knew he were my enemy? What friend of mine that had to him derived your anger did I continue in my liking? Nay, gave notice he was from thence discharged. So I call to mind that I have been your wife in this obedience upward for 20 years, and have been blessed with many children by you. Is in the course and process of this time, you can report and prove it too, against mine honor ought, my bond to wedlock, or my love and duty against your sacred person, in God's name turn me away, and let the foulest contempt shut door upon me, and so give me up to the sharpest kind of knife.
That was that last section, particularly. I feel like you were really clear. That change you dropped in. I could see you drop in around about the 20 years. You were really, really clear, and that made that very last section super, super clear. I followed it a lot more.
I was thinking your direction about there.
And it worked because I felt like you were really spelling out each bit for me, and that helped me follow it. It helped me follow what you were saying, because actually the way that she phrases it, it is actually quite broken up. You know, her syntax is kind of funny. It gets sort of layered. So it is actually one that really needs to be painted. Each section needs to be kind of clear. And that
I was thinking about, objects like obedience, wedlock, tune. So like, yeah, you're right about that.
And it works. It works. How did you feel with that one?
I feel connected to the character. I really feel for her now more. I care about the character more than I did before this session. And I just feel what we said about the resistance and the contradiction. She wants to still be a queen, because she was the queen of Spain, and she then was the queen of England, and she has all the arguments, and everything is, in her mind neat and makes sense, and God is with her, and she made everything right. But I think she's completely desperate. She knows that she has already lost.
Yeah. She's such an interesting character, I think historically, but definitely as an actor, because she did have so much faith. I think she was a person of faith, and that's all she can have really at this point, that this is all a leap of faith. And so, but it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. I think that's the thing about leaps of faith, is that it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt you to see the person that you've loved for 20 years and respected and done everything for, just turn you away and treat you like garbage. Like that hurts. So I think that's what's so rich about her. There's so much going on, that she has poise, but she's hurting. Yeah, she's a beautiful, beautiful character. And you've done so well with it. I think you've got such great acting skill there, that I think once you get familiar with that flow and you feel really confident in the flow of it, I think you're gonna just fly. I think you're gonna connect so well. So well done. I hope you're feeling good.
Thank you so much for all your help and support and your nice words.
Definitely. Oh, no worries. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful to watch. And when this is up on YouTube, you can watch it back and you can see everything that's fallen into place. And it fell into place so quickly.
Yeah. In an hour we did so much. I kept some notes, and now I have already a structure in my mind and things that I want to experiment. So that was very productive, I have to say.
Yay, that's good. That's fabulous. All right, cool. Well, I will let you go, and thank you for sharing this with me and everybody.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for your help. Thank you.
No worries. And good luck for your audition.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.